You know that feeling? You're in a room with a really smart team, but you're just stuck. You're throwing ideas at a whiteboard, but you keep hitting the same wall over and over. It's got to be one of the most frustrating things at work, right? But what if I told you the key to breaking through isn't about working harder? What if it's about thinking differently?
So let's get into it. Here's the roadmap for our little journey today. First, we're going to talk about why we get stuck in the first place. Then, we'll dive into some wild, classic psychology experiments, involving apes and candles, that really unlock the secret of that aha moment. After that, we're going to jump straight to today and see how cutting-edge AI is having its own aha moments. And then, the most important part, we'll bring it all back to your office and give you a practical formula to make these breakthroughs happen for your team.
All right, let's start with that feeling. That feeling of being completely, totally stuck. It's not just that you're out of ideas. It's deeper than that. It's like you know your whole way of looking at the problem is wrong, but you just can't see another way forward.
And this, right here, is the million-dollar question for any team, any company that wants to do something new. Why do some teams have those incredible breakthroughs while others just go in circles? Is it just luck? Do you just need to hire smarter people? Or is there an actual skill behind it, a skill you can learn? Well, it turns out the answer has been hiding in plain sight for about 100 years.
So, way back in the day, these psychologists called the Gestalt school figured out we have two totally different ways of solving problems. The first is what they called reproductive thinking. This is our go-to, our default mode. You see a problem, it looks familiar, and you just pull out a solution you already know. It's like following a recipe. It's efficient, it's reliable, until it's not. Because when you hit a truly new problem, there is no recipe. That's when you need productive thinking. This is the magic. It's the ability to step back, reorganize the entire problem in your head, and find a completely new way forward using creativity and insight.
So how do we actually make that jump into productive thinking? Well, to understand that, we're going to look at a couple of classic experiments that show you exactly what this aha moment looks like when it happens.
The Gestalt psychologists had a word for this: insight. And the key thing to know about insight is that it's not a slow, gradual process. It's a flash, a sudden spark. You're just banging your head against the wall. Wrong, 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 and then bam! The whole solution just appears in your mind, fully formed. You just see it.
And believe it or not, one of the first people to really study this scientifically was a psychologist named Wolfgang Kohler. We're talking the 1910s. He set up this research station to study ape intelligence, and what he discovered completely changed how we understand thinking itself.
The setup was pretty simple. He'd hang bananas from the ceiling, just high enough so the apes couldn't reach them. And in the cage, he'd leave a few objects, like some wooden crates. At first, the chimps did exactly what you'd expect. They'd jump, they'd reach, they'd fail. That's reproductive thinking, right? Using the old solutions. But then, something amazing would happen. They'd stop. They'd just sit down and look around the cage, at the bananas, at the crates, and then, all of a sudden, one would get up with this look of purpose, drag the crates right under the bananas, stack them up to build a little ladder, climb up and grab the prize. They didn't just get lucky, they had an insight. They restructured the problem in their head and suddenly saw the crates not as boxes, but as steps, as tools.
So what stops us from having these insights all the time? Well, the biggest bad guy is a little cognitive bias called functional fixedness. It's basically our brain on autopilot. It locks us into seeing things only for their most common purpose. A hammer is for nails. A cup is for drinking. A box is for holding things. It's a mental shortcut that most of the time helps us out, but it can absolutely kill creative problem solving.
And this is illustrated perfectly by Carl Dunker's famous candle problem from 1945. Okay, so imagine this. I give you a candle, a book of matches, and a box of thumbtacks. Your job is to attach the candle to the wall. What do? Well, most people try to tack the candle directly to the wall, or maybe melt some wax to use as glue. And they all fail. Why? Functional fixedness. They see that little cardboard box only as a container for the tacks. The aha moment, the big insight, happens when you finally see the box not as a container but as a potential shelf. You empty the box, tack it to the wall, and just place the candle right on top. Problem solved.
Okay, so we've got apes and candles. Old school psychology. But here is where this gets really wild. This 100-year-old idea perfectly describes what is happening right now on the absolute cutting edge of artificial intelligence. It turns out the most advanced AIs are having their own aha moments.
Just check this out. When you give a really complex problem to a modern large reasoning model, it doesn't just give you an answer. It actually generates this internal monologue, this self-talk. and it uses these incredibly human-like phrases. Let me think about this. Or, wait, let me double-check that. This isn't just for show. This is the AI doing the exact same thing as Kohler's apes, pausing, reflecting, and self-correcting its own process.
And get this, we can literally see the AI's thought process. In this visualization, the colors tell the story. The red areas, that's where the AI is uncertain. That's when it's using that, let me think language to pause and reflect. But then, as it has its insight, as it figures things out, you see that shift to the cool blue colors. That's high confidence. That's the AI saying, okay, I've got it. It's a visual map of its journey from being stuck to having a breakthrough.
So why does this even matter? It's so important because this self-reflection helps the AI avoid something called reasoning collapse. And that is just the perfect technical term for what we've been talking about. It's the machine equivalent of a team spinning its wheels, getting trapped in a loop, and never, ever reaching the right answer. Now, this collapse can happen a few ways, but look at that last one, reasoning path repetition. Does that sound familiar? It should. It's the AI version of that meeting where the same bad idea keeps getting brought up over and over again, maybe just in slightly different words. The AI's little aha moment is its way of breaking itself out of that exact same kind of unproductive loop.
So here's the bottom line. What can we actually learn from these apes looking for bananas and these AIs correcting themselves? How do we take all these lessons and use them to break our teams out of their boxes and get them past their own functional fixedness?
Okay, so how do you actually build an environment where these breakthroughs can happen? First, you have to reframe your problems. Instead of asking, how do we get the banana, you should be asking, what are all the things we could possibly do with these crates? Second, get your team to think out loud, just like that AI. When we talk through our reasoning, we catch our own mistakes. Third, you have to make it a regular practice to challenge functional fixedness. Ask your team, what's our tack box in this situation? What tool or resource are we only seeing in one way? And, none of this is going to work without psychological safety. People have to feel safe enough to try weird ideas that might fail. Remember, the apes weren't afraid to fail at jumping first. You have to celebrate those smart failures.
Now, it's really important to get this. Reproductive thinking is not the enemy. You need it. For things that are routine and predictable, it's super efficient. It's low risk. But it is the absolute enemy of innovation. Productive thinking, on the other hand, well, it can be messy, it can be slow, it involves a lot more trial and error, but it is the only way to get those game-changing breakthrough solutions. The real skill of a great leader is knowing which mode the team needs to be in and when.
So, I'll just leave you with this one question. Think about your own organization, your team, your tools, your standard operating procedures. What is your tack box? What's that one resource or that one assumption that everyone sees in only one way that if you could just flip it on its side, could become the shelf that holds up your next great idea?